This morning finds me slowing things down. I'm having breakfast in a small cafe near the bridge I filmed yesterday. The fog still shaping the mood of the day. From here, I'll continue exploring more of this area, following the river and the roads as they guide me onward, and eventually into Pennsylvania. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Michael. The year I turned 60, I set off on a new challenge to visit all 50 states in the same year. With a focus on small towns, scenic drives, and the stories in between, I documented each journey as it unfolded. This is one of those stories. So I'm enjoying my morning walk, a cup of coffee here along the Delaware River. This is a path. It's, I believe it's a state park, the DNR Trail or something, whatever it is. I'll put the name right here as he splashes himself with coffee. Everybody's out here this morning. I talked to a couple people that were walking their dog. They're like, a little brisk out, isn't it? And I'm like, yeah, but I love it. Isn't this fog amazing? And they're like, I love it. What's really cool is if I kind of pinched in with my phone, way down there, you could see, the fog gets denser and denser, but you could faintly start to make out people. Anyway, I've got a little bit of a plan today, I think. I thought, what am I going to do until 5 o'clock? Because I want to stay in New Jersey until 5 to get my New Jersey hours in, so to speak. And I notice all these bridges here that connect Pennsylvania and New Jersey along the Delaware. And I'm like, why not visit each one of them and photograph each one and make that be the mission? I wanted to go to a couple of galleries down in Lambertville, but if I just focus on these bridges as my task for the day, take you along for the ride, we'll learn a few things together. I think that's the plan. I love hearing the geese, by the way, and that is not a goose. That's a squirrel. He was screaming like he was in distress a minute ago. What's up, little squirrel? One of the things I really like about small towns is I'm on this path and cross paths with about half a dozen people. Not one has not looked at me and smiled and said good morning and just acknowledged that I'm here. It's something you don't see in the big cities. And it's refreshing to see this and experience this in a state that up until now I didn't really have a fondness for. And that's New Jersey. I think people are naturally nice, good-hearted people. But when you're in a big city, you kind of put that shield on, the protective shield. And again, I rarely know what I'm talking about. So I'm not sure if this is going to be much of a story or if the story of each individual bridge is going to be enough to carry this vlog, but we'll give it a shot. At least this will be the setup clip for that. So let's start with the Frenchtown Bridge where I am. Maybe I'll do a little research, find out a couple of short little sentences about it. A couple of quick facts. I'll show you the picture of it. Maybe a drone shot if I get it in. Yep, here we go. And we'll start. Mike, tell us about the Frenchtown Bridge. So before we begin this whole bridge thing here, which, to be honest with you, I'm not really sure how that's going to turn out, because I don't know if I have a ton of bridge footage, but we'll go with it. As I mentioned several times, I'm editing these videos about a year later, and digging through the footage and trying to find a story. One thing I neglected to do was really talk about this cute little town called Frenchtown. I stayed in a place, I'm not sure if it was called the Inn at Frenchtown or, let me look at my notes here, standby. All right, where was I? It was actually I did a little research of the National Hotel. National Restaurant, Hotel, and Bar. Here's a quick iPhone image from the outside. It was really in the center part. There's a curve in the road where you come down the hill, and it's right there at the bottom of that drone shot right there. It's where the coffee shop is that I visited, and actually the restaurant that I went to the other night was an Italian restaurant. Fantastic food. Anyway, what would I have done if I could do this trip over? I think I've said this several times. I would have talked to some people that live there, or maybe try to interview some restaurant owners or boutique hotel owners. There's a lot of things I could have done. I'll think about that as I plan my next journey out. More on that to follow. So getting back to the bridges. This first one here is the Uhlerstown-Frenchtown Bridge. The first bridge here opened in the 1840s. It was a long, wooden-covered bridge built on stone piers stretching more than 1,000 feet across the Delaware. It survived fires, floods, and decades of hard use, though parts of it were repeatedly damaged and rebuilt over time. By 1931, the original structure was replaced with the steel truss bridge that stands today, reusing the original stone foundations. Since then, it's weathered major floods, including the historic flood of 1955, and has been carefully maintained, evolving with new decks, sidewalks, and safety upgrades while continuing to quietly connect these two river towns. You know, I was talking with my friend Frank. He was telling me how he used to, I guess, take a boat, some sort of a boat or canoe or something down the Delaware, and he can remember stopping at one of these support structures that hold one of these bridges up and had wine and cheese there right in the river. I thought that was a cool little story. Figured I'd add it in here. I'm not sure if it was this bridge or one down the road. What was it, Frank? Anyway, I don't know if I've shared enough of this town. Probably could have spent a lot more time here exploring. I tried to grab some clips and images of what I found interesting and colorful and fun. But it was time to head down to explore the next bridge, which really was a short little drive. And this one was kind of unique. Just south of Frenchtown, I came across a very different kind of crossing. This is the Lumberville Raven Rock Pedestrian Bridge. It's a footbridge that connects two small river towns and asks you to slow down by design. The original structure was built in the early 1940s. There are no cars here, just people, bikes, and the quiet movement of the Delaware River below. It's supported by a small toll, honor system style, and it sways ever so slightly as you walk, enough to remind you that this is a crossing you experience, not just pass over. It exists simply to connect people on both sides of the river, and in a place like this, that feels just right. Kind of a great setting for oh, I don't know, a horror film maybe. Definitely a quiet day out here. I haven't really seen anybody other than people walking their dogs, out riding bikes. But for the most part, well, like, people are doing things. They're in school, they're at work. You're the only one out here clowning around, videoing your life. Anyway, we're heading to the third bridge now. And I don't have that one in front of me. Paperwork's in the car. I'll see you at the next one. I'm reminded as I'm editing this again a year later why I love driving in other parts of the country. This is coming from somebody who lives in South Florida, and most roads are, well, flat and basically north, south, east, and west. This next scene here really brought back some memories of when I was a kid driving through the Allegheny Mountains with my family up in Pennsylvania, looking for deer. So I'm down at my third bridge in Stockton and haven't been able to find a clear and safe place to park and fly the drone. So I think we're going to mix this one up a bit. We're going to drive over the bridge to PA and back, give you a view of the bridge from the road. I took this bridge last night. I may have some footage from that, but I ended up taking a turn going up into, oh my gosh, look at that. There's a deer. There's 3 deer in front of me. I knew there was a reason I came up here and it wasn't for the deer. 4 deer. Look at that. Look at it. They jumped the fence. There's one. You can't see him. Take the phone off here. There they are. 1, 2. Hopefully a fourth one doesn't, or a fifth one doesn't hit me. There's one behind the thing there. Boy, they're kind of plumpy, aren't they? Here comes a car. Deer, slow down. There's a couple of things. When I pulled into this area, there was a sign that said no soliciting and no peddling. I don't plan to solicit or peddle. Not sure what peddling means. I think the reason I wanted to come on and record is kind of do the setup for the Stockton Bridge, but also, you know, one of the reasons I've been traveling this year, wandering about, in addition to just wanting to see more of, look at this. I gotta take, right now I'm gonna take a still shot of this farm here. I'm gonna do a couple of them here, composing 3 different ways. Probably will not turn out as good as it was in my mind's eye, but it's a simple, there we go. There's the shot, I think. We'll do a couple here. It's a house in the foggy distance, a barren tree, and a fence in the foreground. Anyway, I'm talking about a lot of different things here. I came up here to get a higher vantage point, but then I realized as I got up here, most of those vantage points are taken by homes. You're not gonna, it's rare that you're gonna find a park or a place to park with a nice view overlooking the town. Oh, another squirrel. You know, one of the things I'm realizing as I travel into an area like this is a place I would be happy living. Would I be happy living in New Jersey? Not really, but an area that looks like this, that's fairly close to a town, but a place that I can be, I need to look at my map here, hold on. You know, if this location was somewhere other than New Jersey, maybe more in the middle of the country, or Tennessee, North Carolina, that area, where I could explore more of the country from a more centralized location in the United States. That area I was in would be one of those kinds of places. You know, homes that are set off from each other. You have your own land. I saw deer. Obviously, it's going to get the 4 seasons. I don't know, just wanted to point that out. So we're heading down to try to capture... Well, I'm going to cut myself short here in this edit. I had a bunch more clips to go along with this story, but it was getting a little bit too long, so I think we're going to cut it off at about the halfway point here. Another thing I just wanted to mention, I was listening to myself talk about how I would love to get back to enjoying the Four Seasons, and why that sounded good on the trip. We're about to experience a major storm just today, middle of January here, 2026. Apparently it's going to affect, I think, 200 million people. It's about 2/3 of the country. I'm feeling pretty comfy down here in South Florida. So what are we doing if I'm trying to bring this in for a landing? So I'm on my way down to a place called the Stockton Bridge, or actually it's the Center Bridge, was the actual name for it. Is a crossing that sits along what was once known as Old York Road, the main route between Philadelphia and New York City. The first bridge here was a wooden covered toll bridge built in 1814, replacing an earlier ferry crossing. From the start, it faced challenges, structural failures, repeated floods, and even a fire. Major floods in the 1800s destroyed large sections of the bridge, and yet it was rebuilt time and time again on the same river crossing. In 1923, fire and lightning finally destroyed the wooden structure completely. The bridge that stands today was built higher and stronger, opening in the late 1920s, and it went on to survive the devastating flood, another flood, of 1955 that wiped out many other crossings here along the Delaware. Wow. Well, like so many other bridges in this region, it's less about a single moment in time and more about persistence. You know, speaking a little bit about bridges, they end up being like a focal point for a town. I can remember up near our camp, there were a couple of bridges. Nebraska Bridge was one. I remember it got wiped out a couple times from floods, but that was just that one place that we always stopped at. It was a photo backdrop. It was a place to fish from. It was a landmark when we were boating, going from that bridge to the reservoir. When I moved to Florida, there were 3 bridges that we always fished off of. I don't know, maybe I'm romanticizing bridges a little bit too much here, but that's what I was doing today. What else do I got here? I do know that next week I will be arriving in beautiful Lambertville. I'll be exploring a little bit more of this area as I make it through Trenton, New Jersey. And I think I ended up in a neighborhood that I wasn't happy to be in. And then I drove through the evening, a dark and rainy evening, into Pennsylvania. I'll see you next week, and hope you learned something, and I hope you enjoyed being here with me on this journey through the river towns of New Jersey.